Welcome to episode 2 of our Majestic Princess Group Cruise. In this episode we take a look at what we did on the port days. So come along with us and enjoy the fun. Our original itinerary was to leave from Auckland, head up to the Bay of Islands, then Tauranga, Wellington, Picton, Christchurch, Dunedin, cruise the Fiordlands, then head over to Hobart in Tasmania, up to Sydney, and finally fly back to Auckland. But the weather was against us, so instead of going to the Bay of Islands, we went straight to Tauranga and spent 2 days there. Being on the tail end of a storm meant that it was windy and cool with grey skies. Barbara, Bronwyn, Jill and Sue ventured out on one of the days and took a walk along the wharf. Richard, Diane and Chris went into town to a cafe. And Richard also took the opportunity of catching up with his niece. But Teresa and I didn't get off the ship. Teresa feels the cold, so we preferred the cosy environment on board. And that was Tauranga. And the next day we found ourselves in windy Wellington, my hometown. Is it windy? Is it windy?
Oh, very windy.
Is it windy? Is it windy?
Yes, it's so windy.
Come on, come on, come on.
Morning.
Morning, Diane.
And we're all sitting so far apart.
The shuttle bus dropped us off at Lambton Quay, so the logical thing to do was to take a ride on Wellington's cable car or tramway.
The cars have completed nearly 1 million trips. The cars have sets of double plunge and flat wheel.
At the top of the cable car there's a coffee shop, and just outside it we did the photo shoot. We all did a quick visit to the cable car museum and then went our various ways. CK, Winnie and Jojo walked back to the city via the botanical gardens, and so did Richard, Stella and Elaine. Chris and Diane went back down the cable car, and Teresa and I took a trip part way down and then walked back to the city.
We will now descend 119 metres on the 612 metre long track.
You enjoy Wellington?
Yes.
Lots of steps, lots of steps, Take a walk. That's Wellington for you.
The house is similar Hong Kong.
Like
similar
Hong Kong?
Hong Kong, yeah. Similar Hong Kong, Chuen Wan.
Chuen Wan?
Yeah, Chuen Wan is similar.
Well, I've lived in Chuen Wan.
Or Sa Tin.
Oh, Sarton? Yes.
Yes.
I've been there too. We called into St Mary of the Angels Church, then went down to Cuba Street to meet up with Diane and Chris. While filming, we were photobombed by Jill and Barbara. We stopped for a coffee break in Gusney Street and walked down Courtney Place to the Te Papa Museum.
Nice and cool.
Chimneys built in within the house. Well, no one had chimneys anymore at Christchurch.
Next we did the earthquake experience.
Oh, I know about earthquakes. Wow. This is quite a good one.
And so that was Wellington. It was back to the ship for another round of outstanding dining, shows, dancing and entertainment. But not without first staring into our phones. Life 360. L-I-F-E, yeah.
Life in 360.
The next morning we woke up to the beautiful scenes of the Marlborough Sounds as we cruised into Picton. Chris, Teresa and I, with our interior cabins, could watch it on our monitors. After the usual hefty breakfast, we ventured out onto deck 17 for a few photos, then took the shuttle bus into town. Picton is a working port.
Settle down.
Starting to rain. Starting to rain.
Yes.
You enjoying
the rain now?
Yeah, you enjoying Picton?
Yes, enjoy the rain.
You want to play golf? No, me neither.
It's childhood's golf. The mini golf.
Mini golf, yeah. This is where all the Majestic Princess passengers are.
They're ready.
There's many people.
Yeah. All 3,000 of us. It only takes an hour or so to walk the town out, look at the markets and take a few photos on the waterfront. Well, it's raining.
It's raining.
It's raining. Never mind. Better off the ship. And that's what we did. Go back to the ship and settle back into its comforts. Meanwhile, back in the jungle, Diane, Chris and Richard took a wine tour, and the tour company was owned by Diane's daughter. The tour included a quick look at the Picton Blenheim train, the Marlborough Flyer. A great time was had by all.
It's an absolutely stunning, beautiful day in Littleton today. Day 6 of our 14-day cruise. Water's calm, about 32 degrees today. Awesome.
Meanwhile, in our interior cabin, we were treated to a camera's eye view of Littleton. Yeah, great day. We decided to take the free bus into Littleton rather than pay the $35 for the return trip to Christchurch. It only takes a few minutes to look at the shops and the markets, so instead of going into Christchurch City, we opted to take a ride up the Port Hills using the gondola. The Uber ride to the terminal was only $10, and the trip takes you through the Littleton Tunnel. Tickets are $35 per person. This is where your cabbage diet's paying off, but we're not going to be swinging around too much. The gondola was opened in 1992 at a cost of 11.5 million New Zealand dollars. It runs 1,000 metres up the hill to an altitude of 1,460 feet. At the top there is a souvenir shop, a cafe and walking tracks. The views from the top of Littleton and Christchurch are truly spectacular. Also at the lookout there is a Christchurch Discovery ride, a great multimedia experience. You scared? You scared?
No.
Me neither.
Aotearoa, New Zealand. Welcome to Otautai. Forests full of towering trees cloak the land, and valleys rain with birds.
After that it was back to the ship to enjoy more wonderful meals and entertainment. food. What a change to have some. Do you see any cabbage? Do you see any cabbage?
No, I'm not. Yeah, that's right.
Look at that fish. That's quite nice there. I had that the other day.
Did you?
Yeah, it's really nice. The next morning we arrived at Port Chalmers, which is the gateway port for Dunedin. Port Chalmers is another working port, but you could walk out to the town via the terminal building, which provided free Wi-Fi. After the usual hefty breakfast, we decided to take a walk around the town, which has a population of about 1,400. The main street is only a few hundred metres long, and there are a few interesting historic old buildings, including an RSA. A look around the museum proved interesting. Up Church Street, you guessed it, is a church. It was a great spot for a photo shoot. Meanwhile, Richard, Stella and Elaine took a trip to Baldwin Street, the steepest street in the world, and is listed as such in the Guinness Book of World Records. After that, they visited the Dunedin railway station, which dates back to 1906. Nearby was the first church of Otago and the magnificent Anzac Square Gardens. That evening we departed for Hobart, a 3-day journey, back up the South Island and through Cook Strait. 3 days of first-class food and entertainment.
今日隻船咧就嚟到澳洲 Hobart 呢笪地方，咁就停一日。我哋出去行咗半朝早啦，咁啊喺個獅子度行下，好靜冇乜嘢賣。如果同香港比啊，天共地啊！香港哇真係 happy 啊，有得食，有得買嘢，呢度靜英英拍烏蠅。
Teresa and I disembarked with Rex for a look around the city, which has a population of about 210,000. You want to be in the movie, Rex? After morning rush hour, Hobart is a fairly quiet place, and we didn't feel the need to come back again on a future occasion. Teresa and I took an hour's walk around the city, and then went back to the ship for lunch. Our walking tour included the centre of town, Elizabeth Street, where there are a few malls. Shopping.
So quiet.
So quiet.
So quiet, the city.
Quiet. Very nice in the park. We didn't take the city bus tour, but Chris and Lily did and thoroughly enjoyed it. And they also walked up to the botanical gardens. Bronwyn and Sue also did a city walkabout and then met up with Jill and Barbara. I'll pay for your lunch.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we have to go
back to cruise.
over there, yeah. What a great time we had in Hobart. And 2 days later, we were in Sydney. Are you enjoying Hobart?
Yes.
Good?
This is downtown Sydney. On the waterfront, that's the cruise ship we came in on this morning. Going to a concert in the Opera House tonight. This area down by the Opera House is just so busy. It's got a humongous number of people here. Here we go.
Here we go again.
We're in Sydney. Big city of Sydney.
Enjoying
This
Sydney.
is marvellous in Sydney on the tram. This is so much fun, so easy. That's fun.
It's so easy to take a tram.
What do you want to buy? What do you want to buy?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Depends on which one is an interest for me, you see.
Okay.
I want to buy a new hat. I want to change my hat for a newer one.
Yes.
Kangaroo hide.
Australian made in China.
No, it's nothing. Australian made.
Really?
Yeah, that's mean made in Australia.
And what's the price of these?
That is just $79.
Just $79.
The dragon fruit. The dragon fruit is very nice.
Is it what? Is it a vegetable or
No, it's a
fruit?
fruit.
Can we use our thing in here to pay for food?
Yeah. They'll pay for it. They're rich.
Yes.
They'll pay for it. They're rich.
Oh, well,
Yeah, really.
nice to see you.
On the tram again.
雙眼仔啊，
Here we are
雙眼
on
仔坐
the
電
tram
車。
again.
For Teresa and I, it was off to the airport, and by 9 p.m. that night we were back home in Auckland. A really bumpy ride on Air New Zealand's 787-9 series due to the big storm. The storm also delayed Barbara, Jill, Bronwyn and Sue. They got back at about 1:30 a.m. Richard, Diane and Chris stayed on in Sydney for a couple of days and had a ball of a time. And of course Diane had a great spot at the Millennium Hotel. Wining, dining, touring and visiting fish markets were the order of the day. What a lovely time we all had, and we're all looking forward to the next group cruise. Flight delays due to the storm meant that Richard, Diane and Chris were upgraded to business class,